All right. Today we have as our special guest speaker for the Westland Chamber, Dr. Donna Capodacqua with Chrysalis Partners. She's someone that I've learned to appreciate and respect over the last year as I've interacted with her on a weekly basis through Portland Business Advantage. I appreciate her simple mission statements, and I want you to think about if one or all of these apply to you. Transform your organization, reach your goals, live your dream life. What Donna has committed to in her business is helping others reach their potential. When I think of high achievers, I always go back to my days as an athlete throughout high school and college, and I try to think about what I did in those experiences and how I can transfer that to the business world. And what comes to mind is there's really kind of three common denominators for growth and maximizing my abilities. Accountability and coaching are two. Is it even feasible to think you can reach your potential without these two things? And I would say not a chance. If you're a small business owner, you need to think carefully about how you have organized your business and life to have both accountability and coaching to help move you forward. Today, however, Donna is going to focus on the third component, and that's your plan. Using an athletic correlation again, what athlete does not have a plan? As a distance runner, it's always been about the plan. I knew every day exactly what I was going to do to be able to get stronger and be more competitive. We all have limited time and resources, so doing the right thing at the right time is crucial to getting better without getting injured or burning out. Too often we try to work harder instead of smarter. If you pay close attention today to Donna's quick overview on business plans, I hope you become inspired to really create a plan that will make you a champion. So now, Donna, your job is to turn us all into champions, to give us a little help in making us better.
Give you a whole new rock new business. Okay. Well, thank you so much, all of you, for coming today, and for Greg and Chatrine for inviting me. And as I was talking with Greg and Chatrine about, what do members really want to hear about? I kind of came to the conclusion that it's important to talk about business plans because they're a way to bounce forward from COVID and to plan for your post-COVID world now. And Michael Santos, who's with us from our BNI chapter today, has already done that. He changed his business from largely a subscription model to a more traditional personal training model. And we might want to ask him a little bit about what caused him to do that and how he planned for that a little bit later on today. But right now, I want to say that goals are powerful things, and a business plan is your path to achieving those goals. So maybe you already have a business plan, or maybe you're new and you need a plan. Creating and revisiting your business plan every year is very important to any business, to track your progress, to note your successes, and to plan for coming quarters, just like Michael did, and just like Diane, you're talking about planning for coming quarters and maybe some transitioning. So you might have a longer horizon to look out over. Maybe you're going to look out over 3 years or so. Anyway, having your business plan can also tell you when you need to change things up and rethink a strategy that might not be working as you had intended it to or had hoped it would. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about one of my clients named Jay by way of illustration. I'm also going to share with you examples from a colleague of mine in Australia to show you this works anywhere in the world, in any size business. But I want to talk to you a little bit about Jay. Jay is my very first business coaching client, and he's a second generation owner of his business. He took over about 3 years ago, took over the whole thing. The business is very specialized and it runs 24/7. Luckily for Jay and the folks that work with him and his clients, their business was not negatively impacted by COVID in terms of finances and activity. They still had money coming in and they still had clients coming in. Their staff got a little bit toasted, but he found ways to take care of that. But Jay was doing almost everything himself, including bookkeeping. And this is a multi-million-dollar business, and he was doing payroll. Jay was working a lot. There's 24 hours in a day, and it was not unusual for him to be working at least 16 of those hours. And so we've got this kind of word puzzle here, and this is how Jay was feeling. And the larger the letters in the word, the more Jay was feeling this, and we kind of analyzed what he was feeling. And so look at some of those words, right? They're not happy words. I'm stressed, I'm frustrated, I lack confidence in the team. Yeah, because you're not giving them anything to do, and you're reactive, and you're scattered, and you don't know quite what to do next. And it really wears on your confidence. And so Jay is a smart guy, and he knew that things needed to change, but he wasn't quite sure where or how to start. This is a 25-year-old business. He remembers when his mom started it and how things were done then. So one of the things I talk to people about before I start working with them in a coaching capacity is I really encourage them. I give them homework. That's what I do. I say, well, you need to have your personal purpose plan. You need to know what your personal purpose is. And we get to that later, because if your personal purpose doesn't align very well with your business, sure, you might be successful because you're good at what you do, but you might not be loving it, and it might not serve your life very well. And so some of the questions I asked Jay before we started to work with him, and who evolved into his senior leadership team, was, where would you like to be personally in 5 years? I need you to think about that and answer that, because again, it's your business. We need to make it serve your life. When you think about yourself in 5 years and where you want to be, what needs to be in place in your business for you to get there? And then I ask, what are you willing to do to get there? Because sometimes I'll talk with people and they'll say, oh yeah, this is where I want to be and this is what needs to be in place, but I don't really want to do anything differently. Well, that is not a recipe for success. So probably we don't end up working together. And what Jay talked about wanting was to be intentional. Like, he was doing a lot of things because that's the way they'd always been done. That was his mom's legacy, right? And he wanted to be true to some of that, but he knew he wanted to examine that. He wanted to have a good blend of working and living life and having fun. So some of the things he told me when we got together one-on-one was, well, I'd like to be able to resume my hobby of rock climbing. And I like exotic fish. So I'd like to be able to go ahead and keep a freshwater tank again. I want to be able to take a vacation without worrying for a week or two, maybe even without taking my cell phone. And he said, gee, he really thought about it. I would like to have enough time so I can have a significant relationship, because I'd like to get married in 5 years, and working the way I do, I don't really have time for a relationship. It had cost him relationships before. He knew he needed to establish some metrics and think about goals. They had never had any formal goals before. And so he said, well, I've got to get everybody the same thing to rally behind. And I have to tell them how we're going to figure out if we were successful or not. And then processes. They were doing some processes, but he found that there were a lot of opt-in. So yeah, we have this process, but I don't like this process, so I'm going to do it another way. Well, he realized, gee, when we had 5 employees, that might have worked, but now having upwards of 80 employees, that doesn't work so well. He needed for people to be accountable. When he really dug down into it, is people were not accountable. And he recognized, because he was stretched so thin, he didn't do such a very good job of holding people accountable. And finally, communication rhythm really has to do with, okay, when you work on all of these things and you make all of these decisions and have all of these goals, what is the best way to communicate that across an operation that's 24/7 and operates multiple shifts? Some employees might work once a month because they're on call. So how do we make sure everybody knows that? And I have some tools to help with that. All right, so this is the business plan, and Diana, it's very small. So, but here's the plan, and it looks scary and it looks intimidating, and there are a lot of things on this sheet of paper. Some are strategic and some are very, very tactical. What I can tell you is that you need, in order to have a plan to operate and to go forward, to be able to implement right away, you need only about 15 elements on this plan. And the very first one that I start with, and John Rivers knows this, the very first one that we start with is, what is the core purpose of your organization? You have to know that, right? That helps you decide what you're going to focus on and what opportunities you might let go. You need to know what your values are. You need to know how you're differentiated in the market vis-a-vis your competitors. You need to know the units of profit that drive your business. So for Southwest Airlines, they decided it's profit per airplane, because profit per seat mile didn't make any sense to them because their model is to turn things over very quickly. You need to have your inspiration. And with that, that's your BHAG, which is your big, hairy, audacious goal. So it's what you strive to be, right? So there's a company that's I'm colleagues with their CEO, and she's in Australia, and their goal is to provide 10,000 wow experiences to their clients by the year 2030. And so they kind of map that out. It's like, okay, what does that look like in 3 years? What does that look like in 1 year? What do I have to do this quarter to get to that? So you need to understand who your core customer is. We were talking a little bit about that. Greg and Diane and I were with her business with, who's your customer? Who's your target market? You need to know, like Michael Santos, his market is busy people who want to be fit, right? And they want to do it efficiently. Your 3HAG statement is your 3-year highly achievable goal. And you have to figure that out yourself. And then you've got targets. You've got, okay, in 3 years, I want my revenue to be X. I want my cash in the bank to be X. I want my profit margin to be X. I want the number of staff I have to be X, or I want my employee retention rate or my customer retention rate to be X. These are all, anything written on this plan in terms of targets are suggestions. There might be other things that are more relevant to you and your business and the way you choose to operate. You've got to have annual priorities, quarterly priorities, and you've got to have your critical number, right? So when it gets down to it, what is your critical number? And really that's what you need, because you're going to look 3 years out and you're going to set your targets. And then you're going to say, okay, if that's what I need to be, where I need to be in 3 years, where do I need to be in 1 year? And then you're going to break that down by quarter. Okay. And I will tell you that this plan for me, and I'm a solopreneur, this plan took me 8 months to fill out. I do not intend to have anybody work for me. I intend to be pretty simple. In larger, more complex operations, to fill out the whole thing, it's not unusual to take 18 months to 2 years. So, but you can do these 15 elements. I know we can do them efficiently. Okay. So are there questions about that?
What's some examples of critical numbers? What are typical critical numbers that
So
businesses
critical number.
play with?
So let me tell you a story. So there's, oh, now I'm going to forget his name. The gentleman who eats hot dogs competitively, right? And he studied this. It's a gentleman from Japan. I'm so sorry his name escapes me, but he looked at how his competitors did things, right? And how to, they thought it was about speed. And what he realized when he looked at things and experimented, he realized, yeah, part of it's about speed, but part of it is about working smarter, Greg, like you said. It's like, oh, instead of eating the hot dog and the bun together, I'm going to separate them. I'm going to break the hot dog in half so I can shovel basically two ends in my mouth at one time. And I'm going to soak the bun in water so I can swallow it faster. I don't have to drink between sips. And so what he did, the record before he entered the Nathan's hot dog eating contest in 2003 was 25 hot dogs. Well, he blew it away. He ate 50 hot dogs in the time allotted because that was his critical number. It's like, okay, yeah, it is speed, but how do I get to the speed? So that would be an example of a critical number. Anything else?
What do you find? I mean, I can see the stumbling block for most companies being those differentiators. Give me some examples that how you work with companies on differentiators.
So Jay, we'll talk about Jay actually. His deal is with what his specialty is, there are a lot of high-end practitioners. And what's important to him is that everybody have an option, no matter what it is that they can afford. So one of his differentiators is affordability. Yeah, you can go to my competitor and you can get, you can get a Rolls Royce. And you can go to somebody and get a Cadillac, and you can go to somebody and get a Kia, but I'm going to be that nice, steady Toyota or Mazda. And if they need a Kia, I'm going to talk about that, and I'm going to provide those options. For me as a coach, there are a lot of coaches on the market, but I've been a small business owner in another business for almost 25 years. So I've got that knowledge, and I've got the broad view of having worked for corporations. So I know how to maybe help people think a little bit bigger to help them to achieve their goals. So that would be a differentiator. Greg, I think your differentiator is you can work with people in any market, right? Looking for rentals in any state in the United States. Not everybody can do that, right? Making sense? Okay. All right. Anyway, I want to talk about how Jay is feeling now. We've been working together since August. And you know what? He's feeling a little bit better. He's seen his revenue grow by 25% in that time. He's able to focus now, and he's able to talk with people about, hey, this is the profit margin I want us to have. And they're focusing on different things now that increase productivity. They've got some processes in place. He's got some leaders in place who are doing things that he used to do. He used to do every single disciplinary thing, whether it was, hey, I'm counseling somebody for being late 3 times in a month, to, oh, yeah, somebody who did some questionable things with cash procedure. But he was doing all that counseling, and now there's other people that do that. So he's feeling pretty good, right? He's feeling much better. And notice, like, there's a lot less busy, there are a lot fewer words, and there are a lot calmer words and a lot more positive words. They've been focusing on talent. So some of his outcomes were Jay and his senior leadership team really defined their core purpose and their core values. And I'm impressed with them because they understood they needed to hold people accountable. And I've told this story, some of you have heard this before, but we did annual planning for this year last November, and they defined one of their core values as honesty. And they described that core value as we tell each other the truth. 2 weeks later, somebody on staff told a pretty serious lie. I mean, it was a flat out lie. And then they admitted to the lie, and the lie impacted other employees. And I remember being part of a group text one evening where a couple of senior managers said, oh my gosh, this is terrible. This is what happened. And, can we do this? And can we do that? And can we do this? And can we do that? And the owner didn't say anything. And I didn't say anything. So Jay and I were pretty much out of the fray for a while. And finally, after no less, I'm not kidding you, 56 texts, I finally chimed in and said, you all can do anything you want. It's your company. I'm going to ask you, though, to reflect on, you chose this as a core value, not even 2 weeks ago. So the question you have to ask yourself is it really a core value? If the answer is no, that's fine. It's your company. You get to change it. And then you can decide what you want to do from there. If the answer is yes, that it is a core value, the course of action seems pretty clear to me. And they had been really reluctant in the past to hold people accountable. And they decided, no, we decided this together. We decided it for a reason. We communicated these values to other employees. And we just, we have to be able to trust each other. And so no, and they ended up parting ways with that employee, which was significant, especially for that group, because they're so nice, right? But they developed a senior leadership team. They all have specific roles now. And what they decided was they can't be everywhere all the time because it's a 24/7 operation. So they developed kind of a next level of leads, right? And so that led to people having some opportunities to grow and to build new skills. And for Jay to learn even further about delegation, and then kind of to draw the line with, oh no, we made you a lead, but you don't get to make policy just for your 4 days of the week, just for the people that work with you. So it was, oh, we have to communicate that clearly and have that conversation. The team actually established annual goals for this year and goals for Q1 and Q2, and they met their Q1 goals for profit and for revenue and for staffing. So that was really exciting. They're definitely, as I talked about with the core values example, more accountable now. And they assess their talent regularly. And you've got your A players who meet your core values and just kick butt in performing the technical aspects of the job. And then you've got your B players who are usually pretty reliable and steady, and they might have the occasional lapse. And C players, maybe they're technically good, but usually they don't always live up to your core values. And we talked about the importance of the most common reason people leave a company is the tolerance, A players is the tolerance of C players. And so they rate their talent quarterly, and they're holding people accountable and making their expectations clear. They're teaching people how to be successful in the organization. And what they're finding is C players who are truly C players are voluntarily leaving the company, which they worried about because this, people in this specialty are hard to find. But what they found is others are more than willing to jump in and take extra shifts because the environment is so much better and everybody is rewarded equally and nobody's a drain on each other. And then I think I mentioned that their revenue was higher by 25% over 2019. So Jay had himself some good outcomes. I wanted to give you an example though I want to talk a little bit about the power of one and how 1 + 1 + 1 = 19. So on the screen, you've got the 7 most influential levers or financial variables in your business. And think about if you change 1 or 2 of them by 1%, about the impact it could have on your business. If you increased your price by 1% or your volume by 1% or lowered the cost of COGS, cost of goods sold, if you lowered that by 1%, think about, gosh, that could have a real impact on my cash flow and on my profit, right? So an AR is accounts receivable, AP is accounts payable. So let's look at Thingamajigs Incorporated and we'll talk about this 1 + 1 + 1 = 19. So their annual sales, or the price they charge for what they sell, was $1 million. The cost of goods sold was $500,000. Their overhead was $400,000, which made their net income $100,000. When you look at changing just 3 variables, 1%. So they raised their prices by 1%, which netted them an extra $10,000. They lowered the cost of goods sold by 1%, which was $5,000, and lowered overhead by 1%, which was $4,000. So when you add $10,000 plus $5,000 plus $4,000, you've got $19,000, which is 19%. So small things, Michael, just like in nutrition and just like in exercise, that means they can have a very big impact over the course of a year or 2 years. So I wanted to share that with you. And I told you I would give you a couple of examples from Australia. So I have a colleague named Adam Siegel in Australia, and he was working with a company that generated leads or helped educational institutions generate leads. As you can imagine, they dealt with major search engine entity who was an important supplier for them. And they realized that's where they spent the bulk. That's where the bulk of their expenses were. And his client was subject to very tight payment terms. And so he walked this team through, hey, the power of one. And what the senior leadership team of this company realized was that they needed to negotiate better terms with this particular supplier. So they were able to push their accounts payable by weeks, which in the first month improved their cash flow by almost $80,000. So over the course of the year, can you imagine what that did for them and how they were able to reinvest just by getting better payment terms? Another client of Adam's went through the tool and discovered that they hadn't reviewed their pricing in 7 years. Bad idea. But they were busy doing other stuff, right? You all know how that is. There's so many fires to put out. So the leadership team dug in and looked at their customer base and an analysis of the market, basically their competitors. And what they realized was, gosh, there were some products they had that they really needed to lower their price on. But there were others where they could do a significant price increase. And ultimately, the firm was able to increase their pricing by what amounted to more than 5% across the board. So that was way more than 1 + 1 + 1 = 19. So again, these little incremental steps, you're doing one thing different to set yourself up for success today by planning, have a huge impact, whether it's a month or a year. Okay, are there questions?
I love this example, by the way. I think it's extremely on point. Just switching the pricing and switching what you're selling, it's makes a huge difference.
Not by a lot. And I was talking to somebody last week, a potential client who said, yeah, I have a client who tells me you need to raise your price every year. Give me a price increase every year, even if it's just a little bit, because then you're conditioning me and all your other clients to do that. And so it's not a surprise to us. And again, even if it's not a lot, when you think about the income you generate or the revenue you generate as a whole during the course of the year, you can see where it can add up.
Yeah, I really love the concept of that. 1 + 1 + 1 = 19. I was trying to figure out how you were going to do that. And I'm like, let's see. But it's so valuable across the board.
Agree. And imagine if you moved all 7 levers, or imagine if you moved any 1 or 2 variables by 2%, right? So in the beginning, I talked about the path to your goals being your business plan. And so I am offering a series of 4 workshops, June through September of this year, in which we will walk through doing the 15 variables on this plan so you can create something actionable at the end of the first session that you'll go and implement. And 8 to noon on the last Tuesday of the month at the Century Hotel in Tualatin. We are limited to 12 seats due to physical distancing. But if you'd like to see a syllabus or if you'd like to claim your seat, please contact me. I am Donna Capodacqua, Chrysalis Partners.
Donna, on that workshop that you just mentioned, is because you mentioned how you used that business plan for yourself as a solo entrepreneur. So is there a certain size of business it is okay to be a solo entrepreneur in that workshop, or?
Oh, without a doubt, yeah. In fact, I already have Dennis is a solopreneur and he's registered. So, and then I have a couple who works together who are thinking about coming. So, yeah. So this is for me, Casey. This is kind of the best of both worlds. You get private coaching, but at a very affordable rate, and you get input from 11 other business owners or business leaders, in addition to my tools and facilitation.
The other thing that we haven't touched on yet, and Shatrine, you can talk about this a little bit, about the needs for a business plan if you're applying for money help right now. So would you talk about that real quick, Shatrine?
Absolutely, yes. The Westland Chamber has been so fortunate to be involved with a collaborative of Clackamas County chambers building business recovery centers. And within that path, we've been able to help folks, with their PPL loans, the EIDL loans, different things like that, and grants during this crazy time. What we are finding out, one of the main requests, especially with the larger funding, is they want to see your business plan. And they want it to be, they look through and go, okay, so they want to see your growth. And again, just exactly what Donna's talking about. And, so many businesses, I think, through this pandemic have realized, okay, I've had a pretty good go. They've been started maybe a year and they're at like year 3. But when they've seen everything that's happened and different things have gone up and down, I think this is a point to revisit and refocus and actually say, hey, what do I want in the next 5 to 10 years? And where could I go with some of these with technology growing, you know what I mean, with these changes. And so it makes us as business owners stop, think, and now, you have the option to really plan and do well. And
the other thing I'd like to point out is if you're affiliated with a nonprofit at all, nonprofit, when you're applying for grants, very often the grantor wants some type of business plan.
Yes.
I know you've all heard the axiom, no plan is a plan to fail. I'm lucky because I'm in an organization that we have pretty high accountability, and I have access to mentors. But man, so many small businesses just don't have that. And I know I floundered in my early years because I started so small and didn't have a ton of business background. I'm very appreciative of the environment I'm in now, and it's definitely allowed me to grow because accountability, a plan, and really coaching yourself up, it's crucial to growth.
And I would say, with some of we've got a lot because of the internet accessibility or even Etsy, different things like that, Instagram, you can build a quick business and be entrepreneurs just right off the bat. You know what I mean? Get a DBA, just start rocking and rolling and doing wonderfully because you are doing things that you love and you're going through. But as you move past that first year or two, we could go back and look at the numbers that Donna, you were talking about how, it started out $1 million is what you had products, but it cost, 500,000 and 400, you know what I mean? They wouldn't be at that level. But I think that's the part that gets missed. You're just going, having fun. And so it's almost our chance to educate, for us as chamber members or even business people, educate those that are coming in and say, so, hey, yeah, it's fabulous what you're doing. Have you thought about in the future? So I think like what Donna does and kind of what we do is we encourage folks and say, okay, that is amazing. Now I want to see you stick around for the next 5 to 10 years and kind of pass this information on. And that's what I think is so critical for us as business owners to keep the economy healthy and encourage each other along the way too. Just a random thought.
I have a question, Shatrine. With all this new grant money coming in, will any of it cover Donna's course for businesses who maybe need some funding for it?
Yes, actually, we are in the process of weeding through that because that is our exact hope. We haven't gotten any true money in hand yet, but our dream is to take these courses like this, especially, doing the business plans, especially all those social media training, and offer grants to either cover the whole thing or at least like 3/4, or if we can figure out how to pair different entities together to cover it all. Yes. That is absolutely our goal. So when we get that, I know, I was like, oh, Donna, I was like, we're going to be having conversations soon, but I just don't have actual money in hand to say, can we put this together? And then I'll just be real, we'll probably have a cap of like, we could do this for 10 folks or 15 folks in this arena. Do you know what I mean? But we're trying to figure it out and make it the best coverage and the best help we can get out there as quickly as possible. So great question. Thank you.
Kathy Bazan from the BAC and working out of the Tualatin Chamber may have the answer to that question.
Are you talking about Kathy Bazan?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I'm meeting with her on Friday. I'll ask tomorrow.
Oh, cool. Yeah, are folks using the BRCs? Are folks in this session using them?
Can you
Kathy
define what a
is-
BRC is?
I'm using
Oh, yeah, Business Recovery Center.
Yeah, Kathy's helping me with my writing. And she's connected me with some interesting people. So I'm using it. I find Kathy to be very resourceful.
And I think here it would be like there's, they have the Washington County BRC, and then we have Clackamas County. But I don't believe, like, as far as I know, there's not a Multnomah or any of the others that stretch out. So we're kind of the two standalone, if you will. And Washington's has been funded since June, and ours was kind of a December off the cuff, do as much as you can. Here's a little bit of money, and then restarted about a week ago. Refunding. So yeah, we've kind of got a different path and such. That's why my fund availability is a little different than Tualatin's, but I love, Kathy's amazing.
Yeah, and I know that, there's a little bit of movement afoot to say, okay, how can we, in Washington County anyway, at the county level, extend the BRCs for maybe another year until June of 2022, so that people can really have an opportunity to use those resources to get on their feet. Like I know Kathy says that she's moved $6 million since she's been doing this to smaller local businesses. I mean, they did everything like providing free PPE. And I'm a local business, so I applied to get PPE. I have enough hand sanitizer and masks. Like I could probably open a surgical suite in the backyard. I won't, but so they were really good about that.
Yes, if you need some PPE, I have some in my basement and I will bring it to you. But yeah, that's been an amazing resource. And yes, if you guys ever have any questions about that too, about what's offering, we'll always share resources. because I do think, so if you've got your business plan, and you're building this, and you have the avenue to look at grants or different things, or somehow that falls into line, any of those, we'll have those resources to be able to help you move in all those different directions and transition to what area is important for you.
Yeah, I highly encourage everybody. Shatreen, is our executive director here with the Westland Chamber. There's quite a bit of information. It keeps getting posted. Use the website. Keep in touch about what's available for businesses, because this is a highly volatile time, and you need to know, what's potentially out there for you. Does anybody have a story they want to tell about how they've adapted their business during COVID, how it's changed things? I mean, I always love business examples to share with other people. I mean, what worked, what didn't work, any examples how you had to shift your business?
Mine went 100% virtual. And everything went to DocuSign, which legally wasn't allowed prior to that. So the whole industry changed. It required it, and it's been nice. I've missed the in-person, but it was nice that industry stepped up.
Yep. I think it also allows the possibility to broaden your network of individuals that you're working with. In my business, I had a huge shift from in-person training, figure out the whole online training, creating an online membership, hiring people to teach classes, and just trial and error. The last year has just been, what's something that I want to do, go implement it, see how it does, evaluate it, switch it again, and then keep on finding something that works. And I think now I finally have something through all that trial and error that's allowing me to first not undervalue the work that I do and reach more people all over the country. So I have clients in North Carolina, I have clients in California, I have clients reaching out to me from all over the country. So it's been really tough to transition over, but the possibility now is that you can go national, you could go worldwide. If you're in my case, I'm a personal trainer. I could train anyone if you're in Mexico, South America, other side of the world. It's the beauty of the virtual power that we have. So that's been really nice.
Yeah, Michael, I have a colleague in Michigan who works with a client in India now because of virtual. He never really would have considered all that international travel, but he's able to travel at Zoom. Granted, it's 2:30 in the morning for him sometimes, but better than a 3-day airplane flight.
Yep. And it's amazing. It's amazing what you're able to do. And in my business, it has been a lot of automation. I think that's what has really helped me now in the level that I'm at right now, is that over the last year and a half, everything that I've done is just creating the automation process of like, how can I make this as simple for me so the sell becomes a lot better and the load on actually training someone becomes a lot smoother. So yeah, a lot of trial and error, a lot of ups and downs. And if you guys have any questions about creating an online membership, kind of what I went through, what I recommend, what I don't recommend, I'll be happy to talk to you guys about any of that.
That's fantastic. And John, I actually was thinking of you as different folks. I was like, there's Casey and then Michael, and they were talking about going online and then DocuSign. So security for internet and different things like that. Has that just gone crazy over this last year, trying to do firewalls and all that kind of stuff, protecting different businesses?
I've lived and breathed backups and security for years, but now that people are working from home, having their data backed up on their home computers or setting up a central server that everybody can remote into and still have full functionality. So it's been everything that I've done in the past, but their new products have really emerged as points of emphasis for businesses as everybody tries to find new ways of continuing to do business and not lose that productivity. And I do love Michael's point that Casey also brought up, valuing yourself in COVID. You're still worth what you charge, even though it's a different time now. So I still think that every service that we all provide is worth the amount that we charge for. So don't devalue yourself just because there's COVID-19 out there.
Jeff Dean, Schooley Mitchell, have you guys seen a different trend in, I know you guys have a lot of different fields that you work on for business cost savings. Has that seen any new trends because of what happened?
Oh, sure. Well, I mean, just in terms of cost reduction in general, there's a lot more people turning over rocks to try and find, where they can find savings, and just a general awareness or a spotlight put on, the bottom line in addition to driving revenue. But yeah, I mean, actually, Casey just mentioned one of the services we consult to is electronic signature, which is blown up as obviously it's efficient and simple, but everybody knows DocuSign as the kind of the first mover, and there's a lot of different options out there. So that's one.
What about
what else?
shipping?
I shower a lot less. That's two.
What about shipping costs? I mean,
Shipping costs, you've got your two behemoths that are always battling it out. And yes, there hasn't, just over the last probably 10, 15 years, is so many more, so much more has turned into online commerce. You've had more competition there, but there really haven't emerged a whole lot of other carriers outside of the USPS. So there's still a lot of savings to be had between those two guys, and you always think you have the best rates, but it's not the case.
I had a quick question to follow up on that, Jeff. I've been meaning to ask you, with this whole virtual trend and everything going online, how do you guys see someone like me, for example, which, like, I don't have an overhead, everything's virtual, everything's automated. My only cost is when someone pays me through Stripe, and then they take a chunk, and that's pretty much the only expense that I have besides my rent and my daily. So how do you, is there any help that you can do for someone like me, or is that like just not your client? That's too far off.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, we work with the small and medium-sized businesses, but I do know there's a buddy on here. Is Steven still on? Yeah, he might be able to help you out a little bit. Not sure. And I mean, in our one-on-one, we can chat through some options there too.
That sounds good.
Yeah, Stephen Quick, who's our board president, is actually someone to touch out and reach. Absolutely.
I'll put my contact information in the box.
Yes, and I know we had some other folks come in at different times. So if everybody could make sure they put their info in there, that would be fabulous. Well, Donna, thank you so very much for today. I think this was so needed and so valuable. And I hope everyone had a great time. If you have any other questions for Donna, I think we put our marker at 12:45. So you can stay on and we can chat some more. But we just hope that this is encouraging to you and you can grow and thrive in your business and move forward. But we thank you for your time, and we hope you guys have a wonderful day today.
Thank you, Donna.
Thanks for spending lunch with me.
Very good. Very
Thanks,
good,
Donna.
Donna.